how to put English on the basketball.
Welcome to a new episode of With English Podcast, episode 2 of the new season. And this week we are bringing the heat by talking all things Miami with an all-star of the NBA UK community, Mr. Miami Heat UK himself, aka Dan Healy. Dan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much for having me, and very humbling introduction there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You did pay me £10 to say that though.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's all transferred. Don't worry.
No, I appreciate you joining us. So
Not a
yes, we're
problem.
going to talk all things Miami. It's still pretty early on in pre-season. We spoke about pre-season last week. What are your thoughts on pre-season, Dan? And how do you see the Miami Heat heading into the regular season?
Well, pre-season, I've never ever given a hoot about. Literally, I would be quite happy if the NBA said, "Don't worry about pre-season games. We're going to go straight into the season. You'll work it all out within a week or so anyway. Job done." I don't look at who we've got. I don't look at the scores. Always I literally check is, did everybody come through unscathed? And if they did, I'm happy.
Yeah,
So, I mean, look, I mean, of course, you want to get some reps in, you want to get some, some fitness up and a bit of, team chemistry built for any, new rookies or anything like that. But no, in terms of actually, do I watch it? Do I pay any attention? Do I watch any of it? Apart from the odd bit of highlights on Miami Heat's own page, no, I don't take any interest in any preseason stuff because it's mainly just a handful of minutes for the starters, and then let's get the G Leaguers out and the rookies and the bench mob and all that, and let them see it through. So yeah, no, never been a fan.
based on that though, you could say Miami are going to be one of the most exciting teams in pre-season because you seem to have amazing G Leaguers, amazing undrafted guys, and your draft picks as well. I don't know how you guys do it, but you seem to
Yeah,
have these guys that no one's ever heard of one week, and then next week he's like, on all the NBA highlights.
it is quite exciting in the sense that yeah, you get to see like the guys that balled out in summer league because we ended up taking that. We took summer league in Vegas this year. Yeah, we've always had a great reputation for bringing through these undrafted gems and drafting very well and picking up some good guys that have got some exciting talent. And yeah, it is always fun. I have sort of managed to curb my enthusiasm with it now because I used to see these guys balling out against other G Leaguers and other bench mob and think this is it. These are the next guys up. We're gonna, they're gonna have big futures. They're going to be a big part of our rotation this year. And then, of course, when it actually comes to it, yeah, you might see one or two of them for a little while. But yeah, I've learned to just sort of curb that. But no, to your point, yes, out of anybody, if you're going to have, some interest in what the preseason can give you, then the Heat are pretty good at finding those guys, 100%.
Well, Sam's sort of similar with preseason, and Sam, you're probably feeling even less about preseason, given you got absolutely trounced by Boston last night by about 50 points.
But it didn't really matter, Embiid didn't play, he's not playing, so it is what it is. But no, I told you all along, Glenn, it doesn't matter. That's why it's good to have Dan and other people come on and say the same thing. It just doesn't matter. It's not the same as, as other sports. Like football's probably the only one where it's a little bit like semi-serious. And NFL do it for like a quarter or two, and then that's it. It's just, you know.
I mean, winning by 50, losing by 50. I would lose by 50 and know that everybody had come out with no injuries, no problems, and I'd be like, "Yep, lovely. That's a good day. That's another game done, chalked off." Rather than I'd then win by 50 and have one of your players go out for 3 weeks or something. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, doesn't scorelines don't matter at this point.
Speaking of health, where's Jimmy Butler at the moment?
Well, I mean, at the moment, touch wood, it's I don't want to jinx it, but it all seems like for once we have gone into pre-season. We're starting this season at this moment in time with not a single injury problem. Everybody, and I've never heard of that. I mean, Jimmy Butler never played a single minute of pre-season basketball last year. So that is really good. But everybody, there's always one or two. We have got literally a clean bill of health at the moment, and long may that continue because I'm sure we'll get into it. But Miami's success of any chance this season will all rely on health. Yeah, I'm really pleased that so far Jimmy and co are fighting fit.
So if everyone's healthy, do you have? Are you more confident with this year's roster than last year's? What has there been many changes in the off season?
Well, no, there isn't, and it's like the stages of grief is when you finish the season, you go into the off season, and you think, right, here we go, another chance. Go and get some help. Go and get this guy that you keep failing to get. Go and get the next person that's going to help Jimmy and Bam along. And of course, it doesn't happen, and you get angry and you go into denial about what's going to happen. And then, of course, everything comes back, and you start once media day starts, and once you see that again, we've drafted quite well, and we picked up one or two small little rotational pieces, and suddenly you think, well, this could be a good team again. And again, answering your question, if, and it is a massive if this team can stay healthy, I think that this is a better all-round roster than we've seen ever since I've been following Miami Heat, which is about 8 years now. This is better at the moment on paper. This is better than the team that went to the finals recently against the Celtics, in my opinion.
Wow.
And that, like, no, and that, well, that you're not alone, because everybody else has says that. What you've lost since that team: Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and all that lot. But let's just remember, when that season started, nobody had heard of any of them. They was all just literally. I mean, look, Caleb Martin, we picked him up off of the Hornets. Literally, they cut him. We picked him up. Gabe Vincent was just scraggling around in our G League team. We picked him up. Max Strus had just been cut by, I think it was the Celtics. Nobody had heard of him, and yet they all became massive pieces of that finals run. And yes, we have lost them all, but I just think with the team that we have now assembled, in the fact that we've got Jaquez Jr. is now, obviously, he had a big rookie year. I think
we were so close to drafting him.
Yeah.
we could have drafted him, and we passed on him and went for Jalen Hood-Schifino. But yes, watching him last year was quite painful for a Laker fan, because he was amazing last year.
He was a top 3 rookie last year. If he was redrafting that, he would have been top 3. He's now
100%.
He's settled in. He already looks very NBA ready anyway, because he is an older rookie. So him coming in now, I think he's a candidate for 6th man of the year this year. I think he's going to do really well. Nikola Jovic is another one who broke out a bit last season. He's now gained a bit of muscle, and he's now not a defensive liability, and he stays out of foul trouble, which is obviously the thing that used to drive me crazy about him. He's now actually become a regular piece now for our starting 5. I think, again, another year he's gonna assemble into something good. He's just 21 years old, and now, even again, from all accounts, with Kel'el Ware, who we picked up with the, I'm going to say, 15th pick. I think that's right. But again, already people are sort of saying, the analysts that know and completely, this is their job to analyze, of saying he already looks like that's the steal at 15. That's the steal of the draft. So I think that along with, again, keeping a healthy roster, I'm high on this team. I really am.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't need. I mean, it's nice to have stars, and you do with, obviously, Butler and Bam, but it's almost like you don't need it, given the last few years. Like you say, you've players that no one heard of to what they are today. I think there's a big reason for that, and I think that is Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah,
I think he's the best coach in the league. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. I always think it's like, no disrespect to the Heat, but it's almost like Pep Guardiola managing like Brentford. It's like a sort of, they should be sort of mid-table, but they're punching above their weight because they got such a great coach
yeah,
at the top.
yeah. I agree. And look, when you look at the success that Spo had during the Big Three era, that's one of the only times where you see 3 stars thrown together and they actually do win stuff. I mean, they was there 4 years. They made 3 NBA finals and they won 2 championships in that time. That's a pretty good return. Winning the NBA title is a hard thing to do, and he managed to do it. Okay, yes, with LeBron at his peak, but that everyone just sort of says, well, Spo only had his success because he had LeBron, but that it still doesn't take away the fact that getting there 3 times out of 4 years and then taking 2 championships out of that is actually a really good return. Anyone would take 10 years of irrelevancy after that, which is pretty much almost what we did.
And
but
I-
then, yeah, to then get to a point where that star quality went away, and I still totally agree that stars are what win. There's only so much you can do with, you know, undrafted talent and trying to polish up these gems and so on. That will get you so far with good coaching. But of course, stars are what win you titles. But it is nice to be able to know that whatever we put on the court, doesn't matter what the name is on the jersey, they're going to give you a good game. And I think that's what Miami and Spoelstra has always, and Pat Riley, etc., have always resonated with this franchise.
well, even in recent years, you've been to the finals twice.
Yeah.
And that's, and you look at Sam Sixers, I will poke at you, Sam, but you have got the stars and you can't get past the hurdle of the second round, yet Spo has taken this Miami team in recent years to the finals twice, which is no mean feat. You're always thereabouts. If you don't make the finals, you sort of in the Eastern Conference finals, and it could be said if Jimmy Butler didn't go down last year, you could have beaten um, Philadelphia in the play-in quite easily, and then maybe it would have been a different outcome going into the postseason.
Yep, quite possibly. Obviously, injuries are part and parcel of it. That's the problem when your star goes down and you haven't got another one like him. You're only going to go so far. You do need somebody, especially like Jimmy, who does literally a bit of everything. He's not just a bucket. He also, he's the leader, he's your alpha, he's the guy that's going to, pull you over the hump, as we've seen so many times in recent years and recent series against so-called better players and better opposition. And he's almost beat them in a way, almost single-handedly on several times. So, yeah, look, that's ifs and buts. Obviously, we'll never know. I don't think that team on paper was really gelling from day one. Something felt wrong about the whole vibe of last season. It was quite weird to see that no one was really, just the vibes weren't there. It's one thing you've always said about Jimmy and the Heat is the vibes have always been there, and I just felt from day one it wasn't. So I'm just not sure whether it was ever going to happen last year. And of course, the injury in that playing game to the Sixers really cemented the end of the season there and then. But yeah, I've got a different feel about this year.
And I
Is
agree.
it Jim?
I agree. Just want to say, I agree. If Butler was healthy, we would have lost that because Embiid was not healthy that whole playoffs, and it just was out of sync. And Knicks proved that by beating us in the first round. So I agree. If Butler stayed healthy, it would have been game over for us.
Possibly. Yeah, we'll never know. Yeah.
Sam, I actually thought your face was telling me that you disagreed with me saying that.
No. I love Jimmy Butler. The fact we chose Ben Simmons and Brett Brown went and said we can't work with him, and we let him, and we didn't want to re-sign him and signed Tobias Harris instead. And then obviously there's years of rumours that he didn't happen, and then he finally admitted it by coming out of the change room that time, shouting, "Jimmy, no, was it Tobias Harris over me?" And it's just like, yeah, great, cheers,
Yeah,
cheers for that
that's
reminder.
funny, yeah.
So yeah, so I agree. I love Butler. I think I loved him. I bought his jersey the moment he scored that free against the Hornets for us. I signed him. I got the jersey. I was like, I love him. And then obviously he left straight away because of the situation. But yeah, I 100% agree. I don't disagree. So
Is Jimmy in his contract yet?
This is the last year fire contract, yeah, but he has got a 50 something million player option next year. But of course,
Oh, okay.
this is what all of the pre-season fuss has been about, because obviously he missed the playoffs. Pat went in on him a little bit about his regular season availability, which I'm 100% behind, because
Mhm.
Butler has always been a playoff beast. Absolutely incredible what he's done. But quite a lot of the reason why he's had to do what he's done and put the team on his back and will us over the line on occasion after occasion is because he doesn't really show up in the regular season. He coasts through it. He plays the games he wants to play, and the availability hasn't been great. And therefore, the regular season suffers for it, which is why you end up being through the play-in, and even before that, before the play-in even existed, we was around that 7th, 8th seed and having to do these Cinderella runs, which he's done, and I'll thank him for it forever because it's wonderful memories. But if he just tried a bit harder in the regular season, actually showed out a bit more, then maybe you get a higher seed and an easier route. So Riley was right to do that. And then we got the whole thing of Well, since then, what's going to happen with his contracts? Because the whole idea was we thought that it was all just going to roll off the end of the last season and suddenly there'll be this extension talk. And Riley's basically said to him, no, we're not offering you anything until it's proven through the regular season. And then there was all the worry of how Jimmy Butler, who, let's be honest, is a character in his own way, how he was going to take being told what to do after he'd done so much for the team, on his own and so on. But he seems to have taken it exactly right. And in fact, in media day, he said, look, Pat's right for calling me out on it. So we'll see. I still personally would be shocked if he doesn't get extended at some point. But it's almost like, well, we need to see the proof in the pudding first. So we'll see.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised when he turned up to media day with no unusual hair. I think, yeah, you're right. Pat's had
No
a word
business.
publicly. You can imagine, well, we heard what Pat said publicly. Imagine what he said behind closed doors.
Yeah,
So
and that's the
he's
thing. Like
probably had a bit of
Pat
grilling.
Riley, obviously Jimmy Butler is Jimmy Butler. He's incredible in his own right, and not really someone you want to get the bad side of. But Pat Riley is an icon. He's the godfather. It just shows that it doesn't really matter who you are. He's dealt with bigger fish in this franchise over the last
Yes.
30 years or however long it's been. And it doesn't matter what's on your back, what name's on your back, or what you've achieved. We're paying you big money, so you've got to earn that big money. If you want to stay here, go and put it all on the line throughout the 6 months rather than just 2 months or a month at the end.
So if everything's said,
Mm.
where are you going to place the Heat seedings wise, and where do you see them finishing in the NBA Cup?
Well, the thing is with the Heat, and I think I've been saying this really for probably the last 4 years. I hear analysts like ESPN, Bleacher, The Ringer, you name it, all of them, and you can read articles and see these rankings and seeding predictions and so on, and you can read some people that are high on them and understand the fact that you got, like we've already listed it out, we've got a deep team, we've got the best coach in the NBA. You never sort of rule out the Heat culture and all the rest of it, and you see them maybe going up quite high, maybe even a home court seed and so on, and you get it. And then you see other people, and that literally the same analysts or same people that are in these professions that do this for a job say the Heat will be fighting for a play-in, and I get it. So you can see both. You can see both sides of it. The Heat, in my opinion, if they stay healthy, and that is a big if because it doesn't often happen, but to have teams or have players like, obviously, you got Butler, you got Bam, Tyler Hero's a big if. We'll maybe talk a little bit about him in a little while, but you've got fourth and fifth options like Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson, Jaquez Jr., as I said, Jovic now, hoping ready to take a leap, and then still even more guys after that, like Hayward Highsmith and Kevin Love and people like that, all the way down to like your ninth, 10th men. Even if the injuries hit, you've still got guys that can come in and do a job. But bottom line is your best players need to be available a lot more than what they have been in recent years. And that's mainly pointing the finger at Jimmy and Tyler Hero, especially. So if they stay fit, apart from Boston, who are in a tier of their own, I wouldn't rule anything out up to two, honestly. Realistically, no, that's not going to be that. But I wouldn't rule out. If someone said to me, right, the Heat have seeded second, I wouldn't be sitting there wearing what? Jaw on the ground. I'd go, okay, I see it. On the other hand, if it doesn't really plan out and the injuries are a problem and we don't continue to develop like this team probably should, then yeah, look, we're probably a playing again. We're going to fight in the same locked in positions of around 7 and 8 like we've done for the last 2 seasons.
Anybody listening to this may think you just have giddy optimism, but I do think there is logic in everything you are saying, given proof in the pudding. We've seen the results from the Heat, and I guess when you put it like the way you just did, if they finish second, I wouldn't be that shocked. I would comment quite a lot last season about how weak the East is, and part of that's just poking a bit of fun, but it was more from a case of there's a lot of Eastern teams that didn't have the health last year and couldn't compete to the highest level. And obviously the Bucks, were still merging with the whole Giannis and Dame Lillard thing. I'm sure. I don't know if you're still sore about the fact that he didn't join the Heat because
Absolutely.
he was rumored to go there quite a few times, obviously. But yeah, I think the East almost was a bit of, obviously, like you say, Boston were in their own tier, but I think a lot of teams were a bit lost in the East last season.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say to it is Miami haven't really traded or acquired anybody really in the last 3 years. All they've done is had like small little rotational pieces and then they've drafted well again. This
Yes.
team is not a lot different to 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, we seeded one in the East. Okay, the difference being now is obviously other teams have got better. Philadelphia got better. New York got better. Boston have got better. That's the drop off. It's not necessarily that the Heat got worse. In fact, I rate this team as it is now as more balanced as a roster than they was with their one seed team 3 years ago. The problem has always been since is like I keep coming back to health has been poor for the regular season, and this team is not good enough to deal with unhealthy players. Therefore, you're
Yeah.
now relying on your Hayward Highsmiths and your Kevin Loves and these players that are only maybe supposed to play 10 to 12 minutes, suddenly having to play 25 minutes, and the team's not good enough. The East is too strong. And that's why we've seeded 7, 8, 9 in the last 2 years. So, yeah, look, there needs to be a bit of luck, but the talent is there, the coaching is there. We could heat culture our way up the standings once again. And the difference being is, yes, of course, on paper, New York, Philadelphia, Milwaukee are all better on paper. But also, Knicks get a bad injury. Middleton goes out again, or Giannis spends some time. We know Embiid has health problems. We know George misses games. Suddenly, that's where if you keep your health there and you get a bit of luck along the way, I wouldn't rule it out. Is it realistic? Maybe not, but it's not unrealistic.
Nah, Doc Rivers is in
No.
charge of Bucks, so you can eliminate them straight away.
Well, and
Bucks.
Darvin Ham's back there.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Bucks.
yeah.
I'm not
Dumb and
massively
Dumber.
behind the Bucks this year. I think they're an aging squad. I think they're regressing. I don't really think the Dame thing worked out that great
No.
last year. Really, I think
No.
I'm still convinced to this day is miserable to be there. Yeah, I don't think
Why would you let Drew Holiday go
I know.
to bring in an Asian Dame Lillard?
Yeah.
I still to this day do not get it.
No.
But it helps teams like your Sixers, Sam, and the Heat. So we mentioned about Jimmy not taking the regular season that serious. We hope he does this year. Do you think he'll take the NBA Cup seriously?
The NBA Cup.
Do you take it seriously?
No, but only yes and no. I take it seriously because there's still normal NBA seeding games at
Yes.
stake.
Yeah.
So that's my first foremost. I want the W to go in my W column. The NBA Cup, I quite like the idea of it. I just need a better outcome for the winner than just millionaires getting more money. If you can
Yeah.
somehow think of a way of
Well, I'll just sorry to interrupt,
Go on.
but the thing I like about that is it's also the fringe players and the two-way players get that money as well. So I do think it's
course.
good on that front, and they could have life-changing money, especially for the players that on the roster this year, but will they be in the league next year? So it is. But yeah, for the likes of LeBron winning another 500,000, then it's pretty
Yeah.
redundant, isn't it?
Look, I totally agree with what you just said, but from a fan's point of view,
Yeah.
I don't really care about NBA players who are having a luxurious life, regardless on whether they're a bottom of the roster player or not.
We're
They've
paying
still
for
got a
it as
nice
well.
life. And then getting another 500,000. Okay, yeah, good for them. And it does set them up, and maybe they're not going to see that money a long time. Brilliant. But from a fan's point of view, and the sport is all about the fans, not about the players.
Hmm.
I would like them to try and work out some way of making it a rewarding prize that then gets everybody interested straight away. And the only thing I can really think of, I don't know how they would do it, is whether they do some sort of option where the winner of the NBA Cup is then guaranteed maybe home court seeding through the playoffs, no matter where they position, unless they don't, of course, qualify for the playoffs. But you'd like to think that if they're going to win the NBA Cup, they probably are going to be a playoff team. Maybe that's an option. They get home court seeding all the way through. Maybe another option is you somehow reward them with a relatively higher draft pick. Maybe say like a top 5 draft pick wherever they go. Something that gets the team and the fans eager to play on it hard every night.
I think the draft pick's a good shout.
Yeah,
Because you almost, if you give it, go on, Sam.
I was gonna say, I think the draft pick would be tough because you obviously, unless you're in the lottery, but then that's the other thing, like you said, the seeding. So I suppose it could be an option, right? If you become a lottery team and don't qualify, then you can maybe get an extra few balls, so we got more chance of.
Yeah, or
Get,
you know, or the whole thing with the lottery stuff, we just say, well, you know, sorry, you're being rewarded for failure anyway. So if it means that you're diminishing your odds of getting a high draft pick, then okay, I'm all for that. To be honest, because I hate the way that's all done anyway. I get it, but I
Yeah.
hate it. That's a conversation for another day. But I would say, look, even if you said, right, whoever wins the NBA Cup, regardless of where you position or where you seed or where you are or anything, you're getting the third pick in the draft or something like that. You know, not the
I
first,
think
because that's ridiculous, but something
I think
higher,
if
something worthy.
I think if you do like seeding and home seeding, does that team then take the rest of the season as serious? Because yeah, we know we're going to get home seeding regardless of where we
Yeah,
finish.
it,
It's like Tyrese Halliburton said, didn't he? Like if you win the NBA Cup, you should get straight to the playoffs. And it's like well, that just they're trying to make
yeah,
the regular season more entertaining by
yeah, yeah,
doing that counteracts bringing the NBA Cup
yeah.
in at
That
all.
you can't just let them automatically qualify. That would be ridiculous.
Mm,
Yeah, but I don't know. Just it's difficult, but I don't know what it'll be.
yeah,
and that's the
yeah, you're
problem,
right. It needs
right?
to be higher stakes.
And that's the problem, right?
Go on.
Because it's more important now, the games. We're paying for
Mm.
that extra money that you said about that, with the millionaires getting more money. Because now to go and watch the Sixers on a Tuesday, I know in Philadelphia, and I think it's going to be the same with all of our franchises because of the markets they're in. Like for us, it's going to be instead of it being a $40 night against the Mavs on a Tuesday night or whatever. I know, it's not going to be the Mavs for us, but just as an example, it's always cheaper to go midweek during the week to watch a regular season game against whoever. But now it's a more higher price because you've got the bright court, you've got the jerseys that they're going to wear, and they're going to sell the head out of the jerseys. And they say do it at Wells Fargo, of like bang 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 bang, and have the hats out and things like that. So then you're as a fan paying for that anyway, and the NBA is getting the money back in all the licensing fees from all the merchandise that's then being sold. So,
Yeah,
so it's just more
yeah.
expensive anyway. So
Look,
instead of a cheap Tuesday game, it's expensive.
yeah. It's only look. This is now year two of it. I like the fact that they've done it. I think it's actually a good idea, especially as the fact that it all counts towards a regular season record anyway. It's adding more importance to what would other just be another game in your 82. I think that I would like to think that it evolves into something better, more substantial in terms of a prize offering. But yeah, that's it. But
Mate,
in terms of how the Heat
you,
will do, who knows? Who knows?
you'll get a banner out of it.
Oh dear.
Oh, that's fine. We'll hang it. Why not?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the main reason we like to bring guests on, especially from the NBA UK community, is to find out sort of how and when did your love for basketball start, and why did you choose the Miami Heat?
So the NBA fandom for me just started literally out of nowhere. I'm pretty sure I've told this story so many times, but I always forget the year. I'm sure it was 2016-17 was my first year. And it was literally on the eve of that season, my younger brother decided that he was going to get into it. He'd loosely followed it the year before. And he said, the season starts tomorrow. Shall we give this a shout? Like, just pick a team and let's try and hold of it. And I'm a big sports fan. I love all my UK sports. So football, cricket, golf, Formula One. I love anything like that. Anything that's got a league table.
It's always nice to meet a fellow cricket fan because I feel
Yeah.
like we're almost a dying breed.
Anything that's got league tables, I'm happy.
Yeah,
Give me the competition. I'm all over it. So I just suddenly thought, okay, I've never taken any notice of any American sports at that point. Now I'm all over it, but at that point, and I thought, okay, yeah, look, basketball is a very easy to understand sport. End to end, fast pace. You haven't got to know the semantics and ins and outs of everything just to get into it and enjoy it. Let's do it. So I asked him who he was going to start following, and at that point, he was a quite regular visitor to Orlando. So he said he was going to start supporting the Magic. So literally out of just because of that, I said, okay, well, if you're going to be Magic to create some sibling in-state sibling rivalry, I'll support Miami. And only that as well is because Miami was probably one of about 5 teams that I had actually heard of. I'd heard of the Miami Heat. So I thought, okay, let's support them. And that game, we actually, funnily enough, started the season against the Magic. We beat them. And I started with a 7-day free trial. And within that first game being finished, that was it. Subscribed, loving it. buying merch, learning about
Very addictive, isn't it?
learning about all the
I
team
found that
history and
quickly.
all of the rest of it. So,
Yeah.
because at that point, again, I didn't know anything. I've missed all the big three. I've missed all the parades and all the trophies. So, went back and learned about it all, and it's just taken over my life for 7, 8 years now.
Yeah, I think I can definitely relate to that because you just get a bit of a bug for it, and then
Love it.
my wife is governed by all the sports in our household, so I just decided to add another one that's across the world and during the night. So how do you balance watching the Heat?
Well, I still try and watch as many games as I can live. I used to watch literally every single one for years. That's got a bit harder as you get older.
Yeah,
And your job gets in the way and children and all the rest of it. I still try and do at least half, maybe even as far as 2/3. I'll still try and watch live. So that'll just be maybe the standard 7:30 tip at their time is midnight for us, as we know. That would normally mean having a bit of kip around 10ish, 10:30, try and get a couple of hours in, wake up, watch the game, and then try and get back to sleep for a couple of hours before your alarm goes off for work. But yeah, that's
well, when it comes to picking a team, you've done well by picking an Eastern team
yeah,
because I was
absolutely.
stupid to pick a Western team, and
Yeah,
it's an absolute killer.
I don't know how anybody can do it, honestly. If anybody is a UK West Coast fan who watches the majority of the games live, fair play to you, because that's insane.
Yeah, I have to admit that I can only manage to do the playoffs and the
But even that's
play-in,
impressive. Yeah.
and that's it. That's a rough, I would say a few months, but it's only a few weeks really because we only get dumped out in the first round. It's Sam that is the real committed one. He's got his baseball, NFL, and Sixers to watch
Wow,
live.
that's
Yeah,
impressive.
well, baseball and NFL is a bit easier because it's normally obviously a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
You can get the weekend stuff in, but yeah, going to trying to stay up every night or every other night to watch the Sixers is tough. But yeah, I don't do hockey though. You do hockey? Do you do hockey,
Yeah,
Dan?
I
Have I seen you with
again,
hockey?
yeah, I follow all the teams and I keep an eye on everything they do. And yeah, going back to say probably 4 or 5 years, I would literally have a schedule of I would be subscribed to all the literally every subscription package that is available. So that's the hockey, the baseball, the NFL, everything. I'd have all of it, and I wouldn't necessarily watch all of it live, of course, but I would make sure that I would catch up on every game for every franchise. I did that for a couple of years. The more invested I got in basketball, the more the other stuff sort of waned away. But yeah, I still do take an interest in. Obviously, I'm like you just said there with the NFL, it's quite easy because it's once a week. It's always at 6 o'clock. So I'm still big into my Dolphins and I watch them all the time. But obviously, with baseball being every single day almost, and the ice hockey as well, I just really check the results. Maybe watch one or two if I can. But I certainly don't subscribe to the league packages anymore. Just the Dolphins and the Heat now.
And last question from me: Did I see? Because I'm looking at this. Did you take your son to watch Miami, or have you just?
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't
yeah,
done that yet. I want because my son's middle name's Iverson, so I want to take him to
love it.
Sixers game. But yeah, how was that? Is he into it as much as have you convinced him?
Yeah, he absolutely fell in love with it. We went last March, so about 18, 19 months ago that we went. And at that point, he wasn't really into football, which obviously is the UK's main sport. And therefore, he became obsessed with it. He wanted to know all the stuff. He wanted to get back. He wanted to watch the highlights. He was fully absorbed in it. And of course, loved Miami. Why wouldn't you? Beautiful
Mm.
place. Fantastic. Really enjoyed his time. Can't wait to go back there, all the rest of it. Since then, his football love has grown and he's now pretty obsessed with that. So the basketball side, being at very unsociable times, has waned off a little bit, which is I totally get it. But no, if I said to him, "Where do you want to go on holiday next year?" Before I'd even finish the sentence, he would say Miami because he wants to go and watch Miami Heat again. So yeah,
Would he
we'll
be
make
then
sure.
also keen on going to watch Inter Miami?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. See, that's another
Yeah.
thing. Is obviously now you've got Messi there, and he's completely obsessed by him. Yeah, that's something I've almost got to try and do within the next year or so because I think Messi's got one more year in his contract, and I've got to try and hopefully tie that in, which would be lovely. But of course, not the cheapest place to go, but we'll see what we can do.
Come on, Sam. You got to take your boys
I know.
to Philadelphia now.
We normally do X's and O's, but this would be mine now. I know this. Who's the more of the idol in the house? Then is it Messi or is it Wade?
Oh, it's Messi. For him, it's Messi. For him,
And for you, it's Wade.
Oh yeah, no. For me, it's Wade. Yeah, for him, it's Messi. 100%. He's obsessed with him.
Do you know what my first ever game was against Miami? And I was sat in the Sixers bleachers, and there was this Miami fan behind me. And every time Dwayne made a shot, all I heard was, "Yeah, D Wade, woo!" And I was just like, "Oh my god!" And then I got Aggie back at him, and this guy next to me laughed. He was like, "You're British, right?" I was like, "Yeah, obviously." Oh no, he said I was Australian. I said, "No, I'm British." And he was like, "Oh, I love the fact that you." Because you went back at him because he goes, you love this is Philadelphia. You're built for Philadelphia. We don't like away fans, like opponent fans coming in. He called them and stuff like that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, this guy's.
So
And that's
is that
why
why is that why you let all those Knicks fans into your building last year?
Mate, do you know what? Our owners are just a joke. Like they own the Washington Wizard. No, the Washington Redskin. I'm calling them Redskins, whatever they're called, Commanders. They own the New Jersey Devils, and they own part of Crystal Palace, and they own something else. But then none of them are in Philadelphia, so they don't really care. And I think the difference is
Oh.
you two have both got owners that, or had family ownership in your case, like there is ownership there and they care about it and they've assigned the right person to the role. Like it's only recently that we've then put Maury in place, but before that we didn't really care. Whereas he were like
Yeah.
straight away gone, get someone, get Impact Riley. You've obviously done it. We've not been looked after the last few years. All they care about is money. That's why they're moving the stadium
It's
away.
debatable if Ginny Buss cares about the Lakers as much
I
as her
think
dad did.
I think she does. Like you always try and hit the tax threshold. We've only started paying tax recently. Miami have obviously done it, but the thing with Miami is they can pay players less because the tax in the US, Miami's less of more of like a tax haven than Philadelphia. Philadelphia's got quite a high tax rate as well. So a lot of our players live in New Jersey and try and save that way. So it's a bit of a it's just unlucky. You two got the
I
you got the
like how
better
you,
weather. You got the better weather, so that's as well. You both got better weather than what I go to.
I just love every time I mention the New York fans being in your building, you go on a massive life story about why it happened and how it happened.
They didn't
Um,
take over Citizens Bank Park though when we played the Mets in the baseball, and we live rent free in the heads of the Yankees because I don't know if you saw that the New York Yankees fans shouting "FMB'd."
yes, we know, Sam.
Yeah,
I
small
some
small victories.
Yeah, I
yeah
just think
yeah. I
like
think so.
why would you leave? Like put it in context, right? So I'll finish this rant. If I left the Saints game and was like, I wouldn't start sort of going, and I'm from Hampshire. I'm not going to start going F Sussex cricket player or something like that. It's like that, isn't it? Why, or rugby player. I
Sam,
wouldn't do that.
every Southampton game, we chant about Portsmouth. So we do it.
Yeah, but it's the
We don't
same
even play
sport. It's not a
them, but
different
all we
sport. It's
do
not
is
like
talk
a
about.
yeah, but it's a different sport.
We talk about beating them. We lose every week in the Premier League, and then sing about beating them 4-0 in the cup like 3 years ago. We're fully guilty of doing what the Knicks fans are doing. Anyway, what I want to know, Dan,
Yeah.
when did Miami Heat UK start? How did it start?
So I think it was about 5 years ago now. I don't really know why I started it. I think actually I was talking quite a lot backwards and forwards with Durant, who runs the Magic UK, just on my personal account, and
Hmm.
we was always going backwards at each other because it's Heat and Magic, and I
Yeah.
think it was just he was one of the only ones that had actually created a UK account at that point. He was him. I think Boston had one with Nath at the Boston Brit, and that was about it. And he said, "Why don't you? You're always talking about it on your personal account. Why don't you create a Heat UK page?" And I thought about it for a little while, and then thought, you know what? Sort it. I'll see if I can, drum up a bit of interest and see if I can start some form of a community to chat. If there's any other UK hoop fans that support the Heat, that might be good. And for a year or so, not even that, for a few months, I was almost talking to myself, really. Nothing had happened. And then I think really quite like maybe quite a lot of them. I think through COVID, I think everybody had a lot more time. And I think social media in terms of a sphere became a lot more active and everybody started popping up with more and more. And as the sport has obviously grown in the UK, which it 100% definitely has, I think
Hmm.
yeah, it sort of just built a bit of a following, and I think the Miami Heat eventually sort of started to take notice, and they became supportive of what I was doing, staying up for the games and creating a podcast and flying the flag for them basically over here. And yeah, it was quite sort of humbling. Now I was sort of welcome under that umbrella because over in Miami there's several podcasts and leading journalists that I've spoken to, and I've been invited onto their podcasts and so on. And so I've just become part of that South Florida family, which has been incredible, and I've just really enjoyed it. So it just started really out of pretty much nothing, and now has just become a really fulfilling hobby.
That's exactly why I said at the top that you're an all-star of the NBA UK community. Because yeah, it's quite admirable what you've done. You've obviously put a lot of effort into it, and you've got reward out of it. You're obviously referred to as UK Dan, and you've been able to go out onto the center of court, haven't you, and
Yeah,
experience a moment there.
that was pretty incredible. I mean, I was just finally got over because my trip was supposed to happen, and then COVID hit and it all got cancelled, and then I finally then got enough money to then make it happen again. And that's when the Heat sort of contacted me and said, right, if you're coming over, let me know the games and we'll sort you out. And obviously they did. They got me down onto court, and I managed to watch the players, warm up and so on, literally stand on the court with them. And they'd done me a personalised UK Dan jersey, and I got to go and see Spo's press conference and all that. So they really just sort of, as I said, like I said, they looked after me really well, which I was none of that I was expecting. And it just shows that they was appreciating me sort of taking time and as I say, flying the flag for the UK family over here. But it's they're a really good outfit, the Miami Heat. They really do look after anybody that they know is putting effort in, and that was really nice and really rewarding.
No, fair play. I'm not jealous one bit because I doubt the Lakers franchise even looking a glimpse of the hours I put into watching them.
I had to pay to go on.
Just
on
keep plugging away, man. As long as you're having fun, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I had to pay, and we were losing on purpose. So
Hey, you still done it.
Yeah, but I mean, it was quite
Still
cheap.
done it.
But yeah, I didn't get the and yeah, I had to pay an extra 25. I think to be fair, it was about $60 for a ticket in the box, and then an extra $20 to go on the course. It wasn't like now I pay $100 plus for a ticket, but yeah,
no, that's really good.
Yeah, but obviously we were losing on purpose, and the franchise, didn't like intentionally do stuff. The guy that ran the thing did it all for me. So I think what they did for you was really cool. And we like the Magic guys, don't we, as well? So
yeah, we do like the Magic guys, and as anyone that listens knows, I'm a closet Magic fan. So I can't say enough about those guys. We always end, Dan, with our X and O segment where I say three statements, and then it's X if you agree, O if you don't agree. So I head straight into it. We mentioned Spo earlier, obviously a pivotal part for the Heat success. Eric Spoelstra should have been Team USA head coach over Steve Kerr.
Well, yeah, definitely an X in my opinion. I mean, Kerr does get a lot of bad press in my opinion because obviously a lot of his success came through obviously their dynasty stage. But he was still a part of that. The Warriors obviously they was a victim of their own success and the fact that they drafted really well. They developed their guys brilliantly. They've got a good culture there as well. And Kerr, you can't just ignore the fact that he was very much a big part of that. So I do think he gets maybe some unnecessary hate. But if you're asking me, yeah, if you feel like, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put Kerr as a top 5 coach. I think he's maybe just below the periphery of that. But as we've covered right at the top of this show, I think Spoelstra, it's not a take. It's not me being biased. I think it's quite, sensible to say that he is pound for pound the best coach in the NBA. So that then should resonate to being your national coach, in my opinion. He's the best man for the job. To be the assistant to Kerr, I thought is, yeah, mate, I mean, nothing I actually get annoyed about because it's not my country. But yeah, of course, to answer the question, yes, definitely it would be an X to agree.
Dan?
I agree. I think you fit it on the head, to be fair, as well, Dan, because I think, when you look at it, I think sustained success, you should be rewarded for it. And the only way you can really do that is either being named an all-star coach or getting a job that you can do in between, because you can't really do that in footy, right? So otherwise that'd be the ideal thing, wouldn't it? You'd go, right, go to a World Cup or a Euros, and you'd give, like, the best English manager in the Premier League the chance to do it. So I would have personally done it, but I also don't hate the fact Steve Kerr got to do it, because he has been one of the most successful coaches over the last 10 years.
And a wild stat is Spoelstra has never won coach of the year.
Has he not?
Yeah, never. Go.
I mean, well, you could argue the awards over the years.
No.
To be honest, some of those awards that get given out, I think I think Rudy Gobert winning Defensive Player of the Year every year is ridiculous, but it's all based on obviously the votes they get. But that's mad.
Yeah, crazy one.
Well, the reason I threw that one in there is because I think it's bizarre that Kerr was the head coach. I don't know if Spoelstra said no to it or something, but it seems crazy, like to have Kerr over Spo.
Yeah.
That is a mad stat. Right, number two. And hopefully you got an answer for this, given your research into Miami Heat, 'cause it's just before your time. But Miami Heat would have won another championship in the Wade era if it weren't for Chris Bosh's health issues.
Um, I don't know. I would probably say at that point, probably no, because LeBron had obviously left, like at that point, and I know your big three is your big three, but having peak LeBron James on your team goes a long way with that. I think at that point, you then, with LeBron going back to Cleveland, and obviously then having the peak of Durant and Clay and Steph at the start of their dynasty there, I don't know whether a fit and healthy Chris Bosh, as much as he was brilliant and underrated, probably, whether that was enough for them to propel that team that he had around him to another championship. So I would probably say no.
Sam, that was your one. So what were your thoughts on it?
I just felt you would have won more. I felt like you would have done a trade or something. Obviously, I don't know, because obviously I don't know the cap space back then of what you did, but I just felt Dwayne Wade was like, again, because I saw him play, I had like a bit of a bias. Even though I didn't like the fan chanting his name of how good he was, I just thought he was one of the best players in the league at the time. And even though Pete LeBron was there, like you say, in the East still, I still thought if you had Bosch and then you maybe add a third star, and I don't know if that prevented you or Pat Riley was going, let's not get a third star in, and get a buyout person or whatever, because personally that's what I would have. I thought maybe that would have been the difference, having him, and you might have got a bit lucky. Eastern Conference final date. The Broncos. I don't know. You go to a 7-game series, and things happen. Because I think Toronto got lucky. Whoever won out of us in Toronto was going to win the championship that year if Clay was always going to go down in that series as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think, I just personally think that it would have been more interesting, I think, having a Miami team with,
Yeah,
like you say, an underrated
yeah,
Chris
no,
Bosh. I always rated Chris Bosh.
yeah, yeah. No, you do. You make a good point, because, like as you say, a trade out of nowhere suddenly can propel you into being a champion, and you use a good example there with the Raptors. But yeah, and obviously Dwayne Wade, obviously at the peak of his powers, was explosive, just sensational. Obviously, I missed it, but I've seen enough, obviously, over the last 7-8 years to see just how good he was, and obviously did witness him come back, and obviously more into his twilight years at that point. But I don't know. I think the big overwhelming thing has always been in Miami is the fact that just that team shouldn't have ended after 4 years. It should have been a dynasty. They should have won 4 or 5 rings together, that group. And obviously it didn't happen because LeBron obviously made his desire that he wanted to return home. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that maybe just because of how good at that point Golden State were getting, I just don't see how maybe as good as Wade was with a fit Bosch would have been enough.
Like I said earlier, it's very hard to win a championship. A lot of things have got to go your way. Obviously, matchups can change a series. Health is obviously a major issue, hence Chris Bosh himself. But yeah, a lot of things have got to go your way. So it's not just as simple as, yeah, in hindsight, if this or that happened, we would have won. I was going to jump down your throat then, Sam, to say if you beat the Raptors that year, you would have won that year. That's a big if still. That's a big, big if.
Right. Well, that I
So
mean, we've proven Jimmy Butler can carry you to a finals.
yes, that is true. Disclaimer for the last one, Dan. These are not my thoughts and opinions. They're just random statements that I may or may not agree with. Uh, Heat culture is the biggest urban myth in basketball.
Well, I think just seeing what they've done and like we've covered in this episode quite extensively, rubbishes that because, as you say, I know a lot of people take the mick out the slogan, the most professional, nastiest, meanest, all that stuff. The fact you have it on your court and all that lot, and then they're actually useless that year as well was very embarrassing. But the success,
Also, apparently that's not from
no, you're
Pat
right.
in his Heat
You're
days as
right.
well.
It's a Pat Riley mantra, and he
Hmm.
established it into the Heat. So it's actually the Heat culture is actually basically a Pat Riley
Pat,
culture.
yeah,
But
yeah.
obviously, him being there for 25 years, however long it's been,
Hmm.
is obviously now it's stamped into Miami Heat culture, and it isn't a new thing. It's been there from the day he came in. It's plastered everywhere, all over the walls. The whole 1% better every day. First, the fact that they say that Heat culture isn't for everybody because players have gone there and realised that you have to work every single practice session as if it's your last. You leave every drop on that, let alone on the court. And I think the success is in, or the proof is in the pudding, and the fact that look at those teams in recent history that have got this far, or as far as it did. I know there's no titles there, but that team on paper had no right. No right. Jimmy
Hmm.
Butler was brought in to be a 1B, not a 1A. And it was only because he came in and he did what he did in year one. I know it was the bubble season, but in year one, to show that I've got basically a
Don't you dare
Oh
disregard
no,
that
no, I
bubble
wouldn't. I
season.
wouldn't. I'm not on those. I'm not on those. I think the bubble championship is legit. Trust me. I think that actually it takes more mental strength to go through what they had to go to win that
Hmm.
title. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of credence to it, and I take my hat off to the Lakers for winning it. But what? So Jimmy Butler doing that in year one with that team, and then doing two more NBA finals against knocking out the Bucks with Giannis,
Yeah.
with Boston, with Tatum and Brown. Going through two seasons running, the whole Drew Holiday thing of saying that he owns him whilst being down to him. All of that sort of thing. That's all built through the culture. And anybody that just says it's a myth and it doesn't exist, it is born out of jealousy that your franchise can't get the same success.
I think that's a very good answer. And I'm not the one of the people that deny it, to be honest. The reason I put that in there is because you probably heard from last year when it had like you said, the Pat Riley saying on the call, there was a lot of questions in the media about is it a real thing? Is it a Pat Riley thing? Granted, Pat Riley's at the Heat, but is it just something we just say? But I think the fact that it's a saying itself, Heat culture, then surely it's cottoned on somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. And look, it couldn't have come at a worse time with them celebrating their culture with a jersey and plastering the mantra all over the court when we was probably the worst version that we've seen of us for years. So that was actually quite a bit of an embarrassment. But no, as I've just said, without having to go through it again, it's to bring through players like Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, and maybe not only just good players, but Caleb Martin, for example, he should have won finals at Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Gabe Vincent. I know it's not worked out for him at the Lakers, but everybody when the Lakers signed him, were really happy that they got him. It was another piece they could add. He was a G leaguer.
Just
You know,
just to clarify, we are still happy. I think he obviously had a big injuries last year, and
yeah,
he's looked good in pre-season, and we're hoping he's going to be the Gabe Vincent we saw
I
at,
hope
at
so.
Heat 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Gabe. I think it's a real success story, and I love anything like that. But yeah, look,
Yeah.
like I said, it's not for everybody, and a lot of players realise that when they join the Heat, you've got NBA champions like Andre Iguodala and players like that that say the best version of myself was the years that I spent in Miami. It's a real thing, and I think, as I say, the success in recent years shows just what the culture is about.
Oh yeah, every player in any podcast or interview that gets asked who's the toughest workout they've been with, everyone says Miami Heat was the toughest workout.
Yeah.
Sam?
I agree. I was just a bit sad when you brought up one of my first favourite players, AI2. But yeah, Andre, you got robbed at the dunk contest when I started getting into the NBA. Just as an FYI, if you haven't seen that before, but yeah,
I haven't, but I might have to YouTube that. I do like an old school dunk contest.
mate. Alan Iverson plays the ball off
Not that great recently.
the back of the AI1. Mate, and I plays the ball off the back of the rim, behind it. Andre gets under and dunks on it, and it's just ridiculous. But yeah, I agree. I love all that sort of chat. So no, I'm with you on that. I don't disagree.
Dan, we really appreciate your time. Before we go, where can we find you on socials?
So I am on really mainly just Twitter now. I did have Instagrams and Facebooks and all that lot, but I don't really post on there anymore. So I'm very active as always on Twitter, and you can find me at the Miami Heat UK. Drop us a follow. Doesn't matter even if you're not a Heat fan. If you're a UK fan or anybody, give us a follow. I'll follow you back because I'm relatively unbiased. I like a wild take. I like getting carried away and just basically having fun with it. And there's never a tweet I send that's not me with a smile on my face. Just whether it's a wind up or whether it's a bait tweet or something like that. It's just social media is supposed to be for fun. So come give us a
Yes, yeah. And Sam, where can people find us?
With the English one, because
We're the only podcast called With the English.
How to put English on the basketball.